Squared, where my former college roommate and I attempt to add value to people's lives through a pivotal statement, quote, or insight, along with a guest speaker to add some colorful commentary and just another perspective than just Pete and I might have. Through these dialogues, as we've stated before, is that we want to be more than an addition to someone's life. We want to be exponential. So Pete Ferguson is the CBO of BHS Productions. He's an adult and youth development specialist. He's an entrepreneur and an empowerment speaker. I'm Adam Bertine. I'm a professional trainer, entrepreneur, professional photographer, and a local actor and model here in Denver, Colorado. And today, I am so excited to hear our guest that Pete's going to introduce. I'm sure it's going to be high energy. You know, he's got a lot of insight and wisdom, and he's just a great fit for our show. So go ahead, Pete.
Thanks, Adam. And it is my sincerest pleasure today to introduce our guest, Mr. Jarell Roach, a.k.a. Hilarious Hope. Jarell is a comedian. He's a professional speaker. He is a campus life director in Bellevue for Youth for Christ. He is a chaplain. He is an individual who has served our country and done 2 tours of duty. He's a father. He's a son. He's a husband. But more importantly, he's been a friend and a mentor. And I couldn't be more excited that he accepted our invitation and is willing to be here today. So without further ado, I want to introduce Mr. Hilarious Hope, a.k.a. Jarell Roach.
It is a pleasure being at B Square, man. Oh, man, what's up, Adam and Pete? Good to see you guys. I feel like I should just do this, and one of you guys should connect it. I just feel like you should. Somebody grab it. All right, here we go. Pete, you heard it. All right, here we go. I'm going. Pete.
I think we went the wrong direction, but we go ahead. The robot, go ahead, make it happen.
Man. Hey, are we supposed to do that on the 1 and the 3 or the 2 and the 4? I don't know. I mean, I always
just right here.
This right. Our new TikTok. Well, hey, as you can tell, this show is actually going to be absolutely amazing. And so I would like you to just tell us a little bit about not who you are, but tell us about your purpose and
yeah, man,
of Mr. Jarell Roach and who he's all about.
Yeah, man, I love it, dude. Totally honored to be sharing this time with you guys. Totally honored because I'll talk about a little bit more of that here in just a little bit. But Jarell Roach's purpose simply is to bring glory to God. Hands down, I love that purpose because it takes a lot more of me out of the equation, and then it allows me to be like a true version of myself as I see it, a true version of myself. It takes tons of pressure off myself, so when I get to then be me, I can do it at a performance. Even though I'm a comedian and speaker and all this other stuff, I can really just be me and glorify God out of just being me. And I love it. And my goal is ultimately what I feel like God has helped me to understand is that I am a bridge for people. And man, you should see in some of my talks, I literally allow people to stand on my back and walk over my back when trying to display this imagery of what a bridge looks like. And I feel like there have been people in history that have been those bridges. Harriet Tubman, my favorite leader of all times, practically, metaphorically, socially, spiritually, outside of Jesus, man. She's my greatest leader of all times. Go women out there crushing it, killing it. Ooh, 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 ooh. And so like, yeah, this idea of being a bridge. If Jarell Roach at the end of his life has allowed people to walk from this point to that point in freedom, with clarity, with trust, with love, and belief in something greater, I feel like I've done my job. And so then it allows me the freedom to do it everywhere, anytime, all the time. And so I love what I do, being a bridge. That's it, man.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm just doing a little bit of research and stuff on you. You know, I know that you have an entity called Hopehood. Can you just kind of explain a little bit about that? What does that entail and what is its purpose?
Yeah, man. Hopehood is really it's really an accumulation of things that have transpired through my world. And you know, ultimately, hope, I feel, it's the bridge that I am becoming more like, right? So Hopehood is ultimately a community of people that you do life with. The way I like to phrase it is the hood are the people you hope with. To me, hope is about creating standards, new, better, and revised expectations. So then we can anticipate greater seasons, greater cycles, greater results, right? And so the Hope Hood it can touch lives around anywhere, or it can touch lives anywhere, anytime, anyone. It does not discriminate. Ultimately, my greatest hope is in Christ. I feel like he was the bridge builder for me. And so when I look at hope, hope kept me from being mad and angry at people. It kept me from being mad at whites. It kept me from being unruly towards women. It kept me from rightly seeing my brown and black people, because it allows you to look backwards, reflect on the present, and then look forward with not just optimism, but truth, facts, clarity, and faith. And that's exactly what hope is. It's just not over optimistic. It's looking backwards while looking forward and being in between the two. And if you could accomplish something then, in many ways you can accomplish it now. But that means hate, love, that means care, and being cruel. And so the idea is, if you look back at history and you learn from history, you can oftentimes do a lot better in your present, or point your feet better in the present towards a future that you can wind up in spite of all that's happening. And the reason I know that is I look at people that have overcome. I look at our disability community. I know a young lady named Carly. She's had 60 surgeries. She's only a junior, right? 6 major impairments with her life. The moment I seen her stand up out of a wheelchair, because I assumed, just from my past experiences, that she can't walk. And when she walked, got up out of that wheelchair, I was like, oh, ouch, ah. And I totally fell in love with this young lady. But I fell in love with the moment. And I realized, if I look at people, even in their disabilities, even in bad times, even during issues like this, that we can get up and walk, or we can get up and walk again, then it makes me look differently at the future. It gives me a whole nother set of expectations. I stop putting assumptions on people, and I start looking more at their possibility and their potential. And if you do that every day, you create this wonderful hood around you that you do hope with. It's not optimism. It's not being careless. It is really examining the past, pointing our feet towards the future. And like I always say, in Nebraska, if I point my feet towards Michigan, I'm going to wind up in Michigan. Now, where I want to get there, where I want to go as I get there, that can change.
You brought up some great points, and as you know, the premise of the show, we always focus around a quote or a statement. And when you talked about your Hope Hood, you talked about the past, and
Yep.
Our statement today is from George Washington Carver, a Tuskegee man, the Peanut Man, just a phenomenal, one of the greatest scientists of all times of that 1900s. And so, he's got props too. There you go. But you talk about, being that bridge, and I couldn't think of somebody that was more instrumental to being that bridge for all people, not just African Americans, but all people, than him. And so his statement was, where there is no vision, there is no hope. Where there is no vision, there is no hope. And so when you hear that, how does that speak to you?
Yeah, it speaks to me functionally, and it also speaks to me like technically, spiritually, all sorts of ways. But let me describe a couple. The last time we were deployed in a setting where we worked very strongly as engineers. That was what I did in the military for 13 years. That job has changed some, and I wanted to focus more on people as opposed to building things. So a site engineer or engineer will come out, and he will literally look at a desert. She will look at a desert, and there is nothing there. But in their mind, they can see several things. Think about it. Before a building or a plot is built, it is just literally dirt. And then they start digging holes and moving dirt all around this field. And then eventually you start seeing deeper holes, and then other pieces are set to the side for their material set to the side. And all of a sudden the foundation is poured. And next thing you know, there's a floor, and then there's walls, and then there's a second floor, and then there's a roof, or however they decide to build a building, right? So before they can see it, they have to see it. And a bridge is exactly the same way. Because with a bridge, you are looking to move over one thing to another, or you're looking to merge two forms of land together by building an apparatus or an infrastructure to get to one side to another. And without vision, it is hard to have hope that I can get from here to here. And if you don't have hope, you are going to continually look at the past, not learn from the past, and that would have kept me bitter. That would have kept me angry. That would have kept me pointing and blaming people. That would have kept me distant from relationships. It would have probably kept me less authentic. But since I've had bridges, whether it's conversation or people or experiences, because sometimes people's experiences can expedite your actual reality. Marcus, he makes peanuts. I mean, he used peanuts to expedite people's experiences exponentially. He has created all these ways for us to eat, for us to use energy, for us to use fuel, et cetera, et cetera. He had to see it before he could see it. And he built a bridge from point A to point Z that we're still utilizing today. That's why I believe that's true. That's why I believe something like an MLK, man, like when he's talking about going to a mountaintop experience and looking over and seeing people, blacks and whites, associating and building together. That's just, a lot of people say his dream hasn't come to actuality. Well, it hasn't come to actuality if you've lost vision, if you've stopped being a bridge, or maybe the people around you just look like you because you haven't tried to do anything else about it. Well, it's not until you catch a vision that even sometimes people cannot see. And if you do not, you tend to live in the past. You just tend to live in comfort. And comfort oftentimes does not go anywhere until you move from one to another to find a new sphere or level of comfort. So I can go on and on about that, bro, but really it's that idea of that bridge. Exactly what it is. And so we had to build buildings in the desert. There's nothing out there, bro. we had to build infrastructures in the desert, and you have to see it up here. Because if not, you're gonna go, oh, it's just a desert. And that desert remains a desert when you walk away from it. Wow. But the only reason, like Las Vegas, as crazy as it can be, and what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, but the only reason why that could even become what it is because someone looked at an empty desert.
Yeah. Well,
I believe we can build something here.
And that kind of actually reminds me of Pete and I were doing an engagement yesterday, and one of the things that came up was that in order to move from one place to another, I can't keep the same mindset and habits that I have right now in order to move to a new place, right? So again, your mind is essentially, I think, and I hear what you're saying is a bridge to something else, right? And our mind
Absolutely.
is created first in our mind, and then we create it in our reality. So, and just everything that you're saying here. I read a quote on your website that said that we speak life in order to give life to others, right? And that's kind of what I hear everything that you're about is other people, empowering them. So I guess the thing that I'm thinking right now is, what is something that's been really challenging in your life that you went through that you had to hold on to this hope, right? If you want to share.
Yeah.
And how were you able to maintain that hope in those difficult circumstances?
Yeah, there's so many, man. And I mean, holy smokes, where do you want to start? You know, one of those I will share, and it's oftentimes too many of our stories, but about my father, you know, and my hope was so I spent a lot of time looking back, but not moving forward. Like I didn't point my feet towards where I wanted to be. I pointed fingers, but I didn't point my feet there. So I wasn't arriving at this destination. I kept creating the standard that was probably like pride. And out of pride, I had these expectations for a father that hit default in his own personal life. And I became bitter against him. I became mad against him, man. I started expecting way less from him. And I know when people do things over and over again, you can kind of sometimes anticipate things from them. But, you know, the thing that I had, Adam and Pete, the thing that changed my mind was this. I read a little scripture. I read this Proverbs, what a man thinks he becomes. So if I didn't have a better vision for my dad, it would have probably been hard to have a better vision for myself. So I was having a hard time anticipating my future because I was constantly looking at my past and blaming it on him. And when I started finally coming to the realization, working with youth and working with people, wow, like I don't have to be a daddy to be a father. There is a difference. Like daddy clearly means you're having kids. Father means you're obviously showing fatherhood in your hopehood or your community, if you will. I realized, dude, I got tons of flaws. Why am I afraid and anxious about this? Why am I ditching kids? Why am I not upholding my promises? Whoa, boy, who does this feel like? You know? And lo and behold, I didn't do some of the things he did, but that wasn't the standard to judge either, right? The standard to judge was on full potential. And again, it was hard for me to dream about becoming a good father without rightly seeing my own father, in spite of what he was doing, right? The good thing is he has absolutely crushed it in his grandfather. He has bounced back. He has done so many great things, but I wonder if I didn't get rid of some of that past blame, if I would have loved him the way I need to love him now, right? I love my dad. When he was sending out text messages and he's talking about love and calling me all these names, I'm like, oh, 37. I'm like, this is my dad, dog. Oh, yeah, man. You know, and one time I would say, I love you, Dad, a few times in my lifetime I can actually remember saying it as a kid. And he'd be like, yo, you getting soft on me? You weak? What's wrong with you? You kind of acting like a sissy, you know, like, because that was his default. That's what he knew. And so if I'm constantly looking at that as what I know, but I'm not looking forward and pointing my feet in the right direction, but only pointing my finger, then I'm not going to move toward building a bridge from one space to another. You know what my dad has a bridge to do now? Be a really good grandfather. All I've ever wanted to do as a dad was be a teacher, or as a young man is be a teacher and be a dad. So those two things really impacted me to see him absent or see him choosing other things. But I don't also like telling his story in a bad way. I want to give him credibility for the change and the things that he has stepped into because he pointed his feet in the right direction. And that was amazing. And when he kind of came out of the shell, we understood more things about our dad because we did not know a lot of things about our dad. Then we can forgive. Then we can let go. And that in turn has really helped me to build my understanding in the hood that I do hope with, right? And so I'm not always so quick to judge. I'm not always so quick to be hard on people. I'm more quick to forgive people. I'm more quick to give people the benefit of the doubt, right? People tell you that. You know, I'm more quick to go, yeah, I know they blew it, but man, listen, we blow it all. And I'm not trying to make excuses for them because it's not so much about optimism as much as it is where we can see them point their feet.
Yeah.
And I think we're all in some ways trying to arrive at the same places. You know, I think sometimes values change that a little bit, and obviously our perceptions of the world or our worldviews can change that a little bit. But I think we all want happiness. I think we want to be cared for at the bottom line of it, and I think we want to know that we are valued. That's what I wanted to give my dad.
And I think what you said about your dad is, and I think that is so impactful. Where it's never too late to cross that bridge. And I think that's one of the messages that I took away from what you just said is, you know, he pointed his feet, and his feet may have been pointed in different directions, but they may have always been pointing at you, but maybe not to cross the bridge that you needed at that point in time. And so, you know, for me, one of my, you know, Maya Angelou is just a world-renowned poet, and you know, miss her dearly in her words, but she has a poem that I believe she wrote to Oprah Winfrey on her birthday, and it was called "Continue," and it talks about continuing to amaze and astonish a mean world, but just continue, and it just talks about always continuing. And so you talked about that a little bit with your dad, but you know, we always talk about hope, and I think sometimes people take hope for granted, but how do people continue to maintain hope when they feel all is lost, so to speak? And like Maya Angelou said, like, continue to astonish a mean world, even when a world or individuals may not be on your side, or haters, so to speak. I always say haters are people that see potential in you that you don't even see in yourself. But I just think her words ring so true. And I have to thank Dr. Marilyn Moore for bringing that poem to my attention. But I just think it's so true, especially now. How do you point your feet and cross that bridge and continue to have hope when it's not easy?
Yeah, that's super good. I can tell you how I do it, and then I can tell you what I recommend. For me, there's a simple scripture that says, it's simple, but it's pretty complex in a lot of ways. Lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge God and he will direct your path. And so like when I think of like a load bearing wall, because I'm an engineer, or when I think of like when I think of a weighing scale, or when I think of everything that you can put as a wall or a house or a roof or a foundation before it cracks, it's saying lean not even on all of that. Don't lean on your own abilities. Don't lean on all this other stuff that you can do. Trust in him and let him direct your path. So that means for me, I need to go after something that I cannot achieve in my physical body, in my physical self. I can attain it, but I can't achieve it through that. I cannot achieve it through that. I cannot achieve it through Jarell's efforts. That's what I had to learn. My faith is everything to me. It's everything to me. It is what my life depends on. When you see me do things, Pete and Adam, it is because I either am operating in faith or a lack of it. If you see me breaking integrity, it's because it's a lack of faith. I am probably depending on my own defaults, right? Yeah. And so what I recommend to people that has changed me is when I couldn't see a perspective of a healthy dad, because I didn't have a whole lot of them growing up. I just did not. The cousins around me that were fathers already, the uncles around me, my dad, others around me. My brother was a phenomenal example of a father. I had to look at other means of, I had to look outside of my means. I had to look outside of my race. I had to look outside of my family. I had to look outside of my block. I had to see other kids that were struggling too. I had to see what it was like for kids to be left in a garbage can. Whoa. You know, like I had to see what it was like for good fathers to take care of their children and their grandkids love them, right? Because we can't always put our mind on the negative thing as much as it is the most impressive thing. We need to oftentimes know what to do by pointing our feet towards what we need to do, right? And so again, if we examining our past, and sometimes the past sends some mighty blows and sometimes we deliver them. We have to look at that, and if we stay stuck there, we're most likely going to become more like it. So I had to diversify what I seen. I had to see whites and browns and blacks and guys and girls. I had to see other countries and my own people doing something that I could do. I had to look at a Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who was a great voice through the whole World War II, Nazi like potential takeover, you know, the tribe takeover, how he remained a faithful voice even when the church quit and people right around him quit. He remained faithful, and he said, nah, like this is not the standard. I had to look at people like Harriet Tubman, who forgave and had this wherewithal to move forward no matter what, right? She had to encourage herself. That's a big thing. We can't lose that. That's an important caveat to learning how to find greater faith, is learning how to encourage yourself. Like, that's a big deal. That answer is really deep, and I can really actually go on and on about it. But that's where I think hope lies. I have to look to Pete for answers. I have to look to Adam for answers, and I have to take what is good, and I have to cover myself with that. I have to like meditate on that stuff. I have to put it so deep within me that it helps change behaviors, so that not only can I look back, but I can begin to look forward with some of the greater knowledge, some of the better knowledge, some of the better facets of life, and shape myself towards that. Should I be blind to the past and hard things that have happened? No, that's not even what I'm saying. In fact, we can learn from those too. But I am saying goodness is way more impressive. It is way more impressive. In fact, I think it's the nature we should move towards. And it's hard to move towards hope when we stop seeing goodness. So we have to diversify our perspectives. We have to look at people that are perhaps not doing something that we are not doing yet, but we want to do. We have to look at the way people have handled trauma. We have to look at overcomers and how they have overcome things. The disability community, especially those born with impairments, they intrigue me because they grow up so fast. They are creative, and you can't tell them they can't do nothing.
Yeah.
Because they'll do it right in your face, right? And so that gives me hope. So that lets me know if I break a bone or I break a wrist because I love boxing, I mean, goodness gracious, Carly can't even move her arms. She asked me for a hug. I felt like I was hugged by her twice. I feel like Pete Ferguson with his long arms hugged me twice, you know, and Carly's this little 5-foot-something junior, because it's in the perspective. We have to be willing to change. We have to be willing to diversify. Like, I had to get outside of my elements. right? I had to reteach myself stuff. And then more than anything, I just had to trust God, and I still do. Those processes had not changed. I'm almost 40 and I'm still doing the same exact thing that got me over this bridge so I can be a bridge to people. Just doing it better now.
As you can tell, the hope just exudes out of Jarell's pores, and there was no way we could get this all into one B Squared episode. And so we hope that you'll come back and see part 2 and hear more about how he points and helps people point their feet in the right direction and serves as that bridge and encourages you to not only be an addition to one's life, but be exponential. So we look forward to seeing you the next time on B Squared for part 2 with Mr. Jarell Roach, a.k.a. Hilarious Hope.
Ladies and gentlemen, listen, when I did this, Pete and Adam were putting this together, and I got the chance to see the process. And if you want to see how hope really happens, ask these gentlemen about their process. It's real hope, and it is beautiful, and it is precious, and I'm so proud of these guys doing it. They're aiming their feet in the right direction.